And part one of the breaking news update that we have on the show on the story of Sonam Wangchuk. Now, he's become the face of what is happening in Ladakh, and it's named it, ladies and gentlemen. We have gathered more details of the man called Sonam Wangchuk, who claims he's an activist, and there are details now coming in. Sonam Wangchuk, who projects himself as an environmentalist, innovator, but the project he has initiated has left a grave impact on the environment, including one of the ice stupa projects in Ganglas village, where he used non-biodegradable polythene sheets to channel water for the ice stupa. The project failed. The polythene sheets still lay abandoned. They've damaged the environment. Villagers or Ganglas now do not like what he has done. They've even opposed him. These are details coming in. Let's go across to my colleague Shravan Sen, also joining us with the details. Let's show the details of the project that is under lens, the ice stupa project. And we have more details. Shravan joining us with that story. Shravan, tell us more about the ice stupa project, right? What more do we know?
Well, in fact, Niranjan, this is not something that has happened over the last just about a few weeks. This has been done in a systematic manner over the last few years. And Sonam Wangchuk has actually been under the scanner of the agencies for quite some time. The only reason why not much has been done so far is because, remember, these talks were basically underway. And it turns out that Sonam Wangchuk has essentially projected himself as someone who has been working in favor of the people of Ladakh. But let me just peel this off for all our viewers who are watching right now. In terms of each of these projects that he has promised or he has basically worked on is now coming under the scrutiny of not just the agency but also the villagers here. Ganglas village is one such place where his ice stupa project was basically supposed to take place, or he was planning to carry this out, which he said that this was environment friendly. Now, each of these pictures that we have basically accessed, and in fact we've got coordinates, geo-coordinates of these ice stupas at Ganglas, and these are pictures that have been accessed by Republic TV. These are from Ganglas village, in which you would see that what is remaining there are these non-biodegradable polythene sheets, and these sheets were essentially used for the ice stupa project. Now, of course, that is one of the reasons why, remember, the villagers have been up in arms, and it does not end there. There are more details emerging of how he has essentially received funding that his NGO has actually got, and the promises that he has made. Number one, making environment friendly projects, housing projects for the people of Ladakh. This would be environment friendly, and all of these promises were made to multiple villagers. In fact, there is another project that has come under the scanner in which he had taken land from the villagers of Fayang, and this particular land that he had got was about 100 canals of land that was given to him by the villagers. What he had essentially promised was that he would be giving jobs to the youth. It turns out that he did not. There is also investigation that is now being carried out that he has not even paid the premium of a land that was given from the LAHDC, and that amount has not been paid so far. And that is the reason why, remember, multiple agencies are essentially working at that. Why exactly would Sonam Wangchuk actually call in for an indefinite fast or a protest, especially at a time when all the stakeholders were already called for a meeting, and more importantly, progress was actually being made with regards to statehood in Ladakh?
Yeah, in fact, I have a second bit of breaking news update also coming in right now. This is also more on the ice stupa project. Let me get more details that we've accessed right now. In fact, the project failed to meet objectives, and it's not one or two projects. We are being told that several projects that were conducted, they failed to meet the objectives, and yet he went ahead with these projects. You can see on the screen there, in some of those projects, the kind of material that was used did not serve the purpose of why it was set up in the first place. For example, the other ice stupa projects in Pyang were merely for public exhibition. They contributed nothing to irrigation of fields as claimed by Sonam Wangchuk. Volume of water drawn caused scarcity in some of the villages. And in the past year, villagers have also staged protest against the diversion of the stream for ice stupa and even filed a police complaint against him. Now, why are all these details important? It is important, ladies and gentlemen, because it shows the failure of Sonam Wangchuk and why he is now using the youth to make up for his failures, to instigate the youth because he is under the scanner. Is that what your sources are telling you, Shravan? That he's under scanner, facing investigation, and this could be a good diversion for him from all of that?
Well, as I pointed out, that this has been done in a very systematic manner. One is a projection of his own image over the last few years, if I may say so. Sonam Wangchuk has essentially been projecting himself as the voice of people of Ladakh, and he has largely projected himself as some sort of a messiah for the youth in Ladakh. But the reality is completely different. On the contrary, what has essentially happened is that he has basically used the natural resources of Ladakh. He has exploited to a greater extent, is what the agencies basically suspect at this point in time. And this is not just about what the agencies are essentially indicating. People, villagers on the ground have actually protested against these very projects that he's been talking about. As far as villages of Phayang are concerned, remember, several such systems were basically brought in, by which he had essentially indicated that irrigation of the area would actually increase.
Those are exclusive pictures.
But it turns out that the ice stupas that he had essentially built was drawing more money. It was drawing more water, resulting in a situation there was massive scarcity in Phayang village, and the protest, several of the villagers were up in arms, and they had highlighted the fact that multiple promises were made. Promise number one was perhaps increasing the amount of irrigation that would have taken place in that area, which never happened. Second, when he was given land, that land would have been used to build a particular institute and thereafter providing job to the locals there. That did not happen. The third aspect is that when he was actually getting the money, there was a particular objective to the money that he was receiving from the foreign companies and foreign NGOs, and that, it turns out, was never used for the same very purpose. And that is the reason why when there's a preliminary inquiry that is being carried out here in the national capital, they're essentially looking at on what basis did he receive the money, what was the objective of receiving the money, and did he actually use it for the same purpose.
Okay, the next bit of breaking news that we have, why Sonam Wangchuk must answer. Because Sonam Wangchuk, ladies and gentlemen, in the last few days, months, years, has been taking the central government head on. He's making controversial statements, saying that he backs what's happened in Nepal, Bangladesh. He wanted exactly the same to happen even in Ladakh, and that is exactly what happened yesterday. Now, foreign funding is also under scanner. Foreign funding to Wangchuk's NGO is under scanner. Not just that, he's reportedly not paid the premium of the land allotted to him. Villagers had allotted approximately 1,000 karnals for him, for his HIAL institute. He had promised jobs in 2 years, but somehow failed to keep up the promise. They now want the land back. And to top all of that, the NGO is under scanner for foreign funding. Shravan, do we have any details of the links of these NGOs? Because that is also being speculated. Some BJP leaders had claimed links of his NGOs to some very, very questionable sources.
Well, in fact, some of his foreign trips, one trip that he's actually made to Pakistan, the other trip that he's actually made to Nepal, this comes at a time when he was actually receiving large amount of funds. So each of these funds that he was receiving, tranches of funds that he was receiving, and immediately thereafter protest calls were basically made in Ladakh. Is there any correlation? That we do not know. It is a subject matter of investigation right now, and that is exactly what they're looking at. That what was the reason why that some foreign NGOs were actually providing money to Sonam Wangchuk, and what was the purpose of it. Secondly, his visit basically to Pakistan, which he said there was a climate conference that he was actually attending, and of course in Nepal, it turns out that not once, multiple times that he's actually been to Nepal. There are some reports, we do not know whether it is true or not, but having said that, this is this is something that is being looked at, that when when the protest actually intensified in Ladakh against Sonam Wangchuk did actually go to Nepal, and he was staying there for quite some time, for a considerable period of time is what we have been given to understand. Now, these are all subject to further investigation. These are very grave charges that have been leveled against Sonam Wangchuk, and we are waiting for a response to really come in from the so-called environmentalist. If that is the case, then why exactly would the villagers on the ground actually protest against the land that was given to him? Why is it that they are basically demanding that he should hand back the land that he had taken from them to build a particular institute there? These are some questions that are being constantly asked, and as I pointed out, Niranjan, this is not happening in just about the last few weeks. This is a build-up. There has been a build-up to what we witnessed just about a few days ago, and more importantly, this was being planned. That is the reason why, remember, the agencies are now going full throttle.
Okay, thank you for joining us with those inputs. Going on to get you some more breaking news right now. This continues to be our focus. Ladies and gentlemen, in Karnataka, there is a caste survey that is planned.